Hi there, welcome to another episode of the Bonsai Stuff podcast. I'm Scott Martin from Bonsai Matsu, and as always, I love it that you're back listening to me. Thank you very much, it means a hell of a lot. And this episode, I've got a lot to get through. It's going to be a busy episode, just like it's been extremely busy for me around the yard lately. Japanese black pine decandling time, which anyone that knows anything about me knows that that's a busy time. Lots of green waste getting put in the bin at the moment. But it's great to get up close and personal with the trees and to be able to spend that intimate time with them, decandling and seeing where they've developed and the strength areas. And one thing I love about the black pines, and any of my trees, but one thing I really love about the black pines is when I work them properly, how I get balance with the foliage and the growth that comes post-spring. To see that nice and even across the whole tree over, lots of years of work, balancing, needle plucking, wiring, selective pruning, all that sort of stuff, making sure that I can get that nice equilibrium where the strong areas are the same strength as the weak areas, and seeing that happen over a long period of time is just great. And glad to report not one tree didn't get decandled, isn't going to get decandled this year. Everything's grown really well. In Melbourne, our summer has started off quite nice, been warm. There's been a few hot days here and there, been very humid compared to normal. And the growth rate, from all accounts, from talking to everyone around the area in Melbourne, has been fantastic. It's been explosive, for want of a better word. So I want to jump in this podcast though and talk about a few things that I've learnt from the intensives that I've run lately. I've had 3 back-to-back weekends, which has been busy, but been fantastic. People have come from far and wide to join me at Bonsai Matsu in Melbourne and to learn lots of things. I've been through the natives and ficus. I've had juniper intensive. I've had Japanese black pine intensive, and there's been some common threads of what I've learnt about hesitation with people and where I think I can provide you with some sort of framework working on your own trees going forward. I've also got an interview with a fellow called Leigh Taafe, who's the curator from the National Bonsai and Penging Collection of Australia, the NBPCA, as you'll hear about a little bit later on. So it's just a bit of a chat about the collection, but specifically about a new arrangement that Leigh and others have put together for Australian bonsai to link with the Omiya Bonsai Village in Japan. So it's pretty cool. That's a really nice one to have a listen to. And also I want to talk about your skills and where I think I had Aaron here. You would have heard a couple of weeks ago in the podcast from New Zealand, and I've just been reflecting on Aaron's intensive where he was here for 10 days, and also when I went to Japan and why it worked, like what access to good material, how it changes your perspective. It's one thing to have the skills, but to be able to use it on an advanced tree makes a big difference. So I want to talk about that as well. So, lot to cover. Let's get into it, eh? Often when you've got one of your trees in front of you, or you buy a tree, or you acquire a tree, or you see a tree, you can look at the trunk and go, lovely. There's something special about this tree. You can look at the foliage, love the foliage, whatever it is, be it a ginkgo or a beech or a pine or juniper, whatever it is. You can look at it and you can say, I love it. There's something about it. It's got a really nice trunk. Not sure about the branches. I'm sure the design's okay. It's sort of like a bit of a blob of foliage when you first start working with it, or you first see it, or you first acquire it. But to find the inner bonsai within, or to come up with the design, I find there's that's where the pause button gets hit. A lot of people hesitate. You're sort of like, I just can't see it. And you'll come along to someone like me and you'll be like, wow, they've found the tree. It's in there. Like I knew it was there, but I just couldn't see it myself. And that's amazing. And yet that does take a lot of experience. It does take a lot of time to be able to see through and I think talk about the database of having different trees in your mind and looking at lots of pictures, seeing lots of stuff, being exposed to a lot of bonsai over a really long period of time, working out what you like, what you don't like, and why you like it. Like what part of those designs do you like, or what part of the styling do you like? Not to replicate, but just to build up that resource center in your head to say, well, this is what I like. When we read books, some people go for fiction, some people go for non-fiction, some people go for crime. We don't have to all like exactly the same type of book, just same as bonsai. We don't have to like nor desire to have our collection look like everybody else's, right? So you build up this knowledge database or this visual database in your head about what you like. And that's how you can look at a piece of material and say, oh, that trunk line, I reckon that would look great if we did sort of brought this over here and did this and did that. That's fine. And that's something that, you do work towards and you do strive for. But the other part to it is, and I've talked about this a long time ago, I couldn't actually find when I talked about it, but this process of elimination that I suggest everybody goes through. So when you start looking at a piece of material, don't look at it and think, what's the end result? What do I get to? What do I cut off to get to where I want to get to? And then I'll start doing the intricacies. I'll start the wiring process and I'll start this and I'll start that. What I would strongly suggest is that you go through the maintenance side of things first. And I know it can take a little bit longer, but it's worth it. I guarantee you, if you go through and do the maintenance stuff first, then start looking at the structure of the tree, then you'll have a nicer bonsai at the end of it. So the structural stuff, the maintenance stuff that you want to get to. Really simple. Start cleaning out growth which is useless. And by useless, I mean anything growing underneath a branch. It's very rare that in any kind of design work will you use a branch that's growing straight down underneath a branch. Look, you may, I'm not ruling it out, but majority of times and with my experience, I've found that if you start by removing the foliage that's growing underneath the branches, then you'll get that cleaning of the lines. Okay, and it's not necessary. Often the foliage that we have growing down just fills the area, it fills the void, and makes it like a big pom-pom, a big lush area, a bush of growth, right? So getting in there under every single branch that you see and cleaning out that stuff that's underneath, it at least allows you to see where the branches are coming from. So start from the top of the tree, work your way down, and just clean the underneath, clean the unders, clean the unders, clean the unders. And I say this, and I say it on a regular basis, and anyone that's been in a workshop with me or been involved with me in any kind of workshop, you're probably laughing as you listen to this right now because it's something that I repeat over and over and over again. And to be honest, I'll find that when they say, yeah, I'm ready to go to the next step, I'll look at the tree and I go, no, you're not. You still haven't cleaned out enough of the unders on that tree. So you've got to remove it, like thoroughly remove it. Because even if you don't thoroughly clean, you start doing the work, later on you're going to have to come back. And that's, if you look at high quality bonsai, if you look at pictures from anywhere, internet, if you go to someone's yard and you go, wow, that's a beautiful tree, invariably you'll see that the underneath side of those pads is crisp. It is sharp. There is no foliage. All you see is structure, and the structure the foliage sits up on top of the structure. So that's how you build really nice pads. So clean that out, and then follow. Once you've done that part, look at a cluster. Whether it's a maple or whatever it is. You invariably get these trees where they push out clusters of growth, like clumps of it, absolute bloody clumps of it. Black pines at the moment for me with the decandling, I can see on some areas where it, maybe they've got needle buds, or it's just a bunch of growth at the end of some trees where it hasn't been cleaned out last winter. There's just so many. It's like, well, which ones do you keep? You've got 6 or 8 different beautiful buds on the end of this branch. Which ones do you keep? And this is where I keep in the back of my mind this guideline of 1 to 2, so I don't want any more than 2 buds coming or 2 things happening at any one point on any tree that I've got. Ultimately, Australian natives are a little bit different. Gave them the hall pass the other week, so ignore Australian natives. But pretty much when you're looking at ramification on your trees, you don't want any more than 2 things because it's just too much. It gets too dense, gets too thick, don't get sunlight, don't get air, don't get blah, 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 blah. All the usual stuff, right? So when you look at this cluster of growth, just start the elimination process. Don't look at what's right. Look at what is absolutely incorrect. All right, so of the 7, let's say it's 7, look for something that's growing back. You've removed the stuff that's underneath already. Look for something that's growing backwards towards the trunk. Done. That's 1 gone. Look at ones that are maybe shuffled in too close and growing backwards as well, like on a reverse angle, because you'll find that they sort of fan out from the tip of the branch right the way around to the side of the branch. So you want to keep buds which are growing nicely in the same sort of direction as what the branch is, and on a nice angle for future growth. So 45-degree angle thereabouts, doesn't need to be exact, but about a 45-degree angle. So you just start that elimination process and start removing. All you've got to remember is I've got to keep 2. That's it. So you start working towards the best 2 that you've got available. If those 2 that you're left with aren't fantastic, they're not 100% perfect, it doesn't matter. They're the best that you've got available, and that's really all you've got to work towards. We can wire things later on. We can make them more perfect, but by removing the incorrect and getting to the best options that you've got available, it's a great process to go through on every single one, because it takes the pressure off. You don't have to look at that cluster of buds and go, all right, which ones do I keep? Oh, that one's great and that one's great, and then cut all the rest off. You can do it like that, but I just find it's far easier to go, I'm just going to remove the rubbish. Just start by removing the rubbish, and then you look at it at the end of it and go, they're the best 2 that I've got available. And even if you cut off a wrong one, all right, let's say you get back to the last 3 and there's 2 that are very close, and which one's better? I've got to cut one more off. I've got to get back to 2 things. Which one's the better one? I'm not sure. Like, is it going to make a massive difference? I tell you what I want you to do. Cut it back to 2. Make sure that you're definitive. You get back to 2 of them. Put a little bow onto that branch. Go away that night. Come back the next morning and see if it makes a difference, the branch that you've kept. See if it would have been better with the other one on there. And I guarantee you won't even notice where the other one was. So you just got to keep moving forward. Be positive about what you do. Keep in the back of your mind that doing something is far better than doing nothing. Don't get decision paralysis. Don't sit there and just look at this thing for days and days and days. Go through that elimination process. Remove the incorrect. Work towards the best available options that you've got, and ta-da, you're there. Because I guarantee you, that's the way all great bonsai work. That's the way. We can't force things without grafting. We can't force things to be 100% perfect. So we work with what we've got. We remove the rubbish, we remove the cluster, and we come back to what's the best, and then that's all you can do. So that's a good piece of advice for you to use when you're working on any of your trees. Start with the maintenance, the removal process, then get to the elimination process. Simple as that. Okay, so we've got Leigh Taafe, the Curator of the National Bonsai and Penging Collection of Australia, or the NBPCA. Firstly, Leigh, can you just explain for us what the role of the NBPCA is, and just a little bit about the loan trees and public exposure that you guys generate?
Sure thing. G'day, Scott, and hello to all the listeners.
Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, much appreciated. It's a pleasure actually to be on here with you. I listen to your podcast and it's very enjoyable. Look, the NBPCA is ultimately it's a collaboration between the ACT government and the Australian bonsai community. So the collection aims to showcase the art forms of bonsai and penging as they're represented here in Australia. We are a living collection of bonsai and penging created by Australian artists in Australia.
Nice.
So being a dynamic collection, so obviously the trees are changing with the seasons and so forth, but we've also got trees coming and going, and through that we have an ongoing loans program that ultimately complements our permanently donated specimens. Effectively, this creates a display that's ever-changing and creating interest for our visitors every time they make a visit.
Yep.
So loan trees come to us from all parts of Australia, and they can stay for a year or two before being returned to their owners, making way for new lone trees to be displayed. So when I say all parts of Australia, we do need to be aware of limitations from quarantine. So WA, obviously, we've got some issues with being able to get the tree back to the owners there, as well as Tasmania. And the other thing that we need to be mindful of is the far north, or the real tropical areas of Australia. Just wouldn't be the trees just wouldn't be well suited to our climate here in Canberra.
So you yourself, like, I remember a long time ago hearing your name mentioned in many platforms. You've got a long history with Australian bonsai. Now, before you took on the role as curator, maybe you can just let everyone know what your history was, what your background is in bonsai in Australia.
Sure. Look, my interest in bonsai began in 1984. It was a time well before the internet and the ease
No
of
online
access.
stuff then, mate.
That's right, yeah, YouTube and social media and the like. So I started learning bonsai from a Harry Tomlinson book, who was a great author of bonsai books from the UK. And I I remember I had one bonsai tool. It was a branch cutter, and I remember so I was obviously only a young kid, and I remember scouring the drawers for different things that I could pinch, like a pair of scissors and an old fork that I found in the kitchen drawer. My mum was she was an avid gardener and loved the fact that I just had an interest in plants. She would enjoy when I shared whatever I created, and I remember saying she loved to watch me, from the kitchen window tending to my trees. And as a kid, you know, I'd always aspired to having my own bonsai nursery. So you can imagine a kid playing around with his bonsai, thinking, "Oh, one day I'll have a bonsai nursery." So when I became somewhat disillusioned with my chosen career path of IT, so I was in the IT industry once I finished uni. I did that for about 10 years. I decided to start to create a few bonsai and take them to the markets. So in the year 2000, I opened up proper commercial premises for my bonsai nursery, and I did that business for around about 13 years. So, extending from, small bonsai and, materials, pots and bits and pieces. Also did classes, and eventually I ended up doing bonsai for hire. So wherever you could have a bonsai a bunch of flowers in an office, I'd provide an alternative in a bonsai, and I used to have some clients that loved getting a changeover of trees each week.
Nice. So when did you take on the role as curator, and what made you? What was the instigation, I suppose, to make the leap from being a bonsai professional or nurseryman to looking after the National Bonsai Collection?
Yeah, so when I went fully commercial, the premises that I operated from were away from home, and I had to be there 365 days a year. Obviously, from a watering point of view, but there was only one day we were actually closed to the public, and that was Christmas Day. So you can imagine that I required long periods of my time away from home, and it was only when we decided to have a family. I had two young boys to care for that. I thought, well, I don't really want to head down the path of being an absent father. So we searched around for a property that we could live on that had plenty of room, and I'd set up the bonsai nursery from there. So doing that allowed me to kind of concentrate the business on weekend trade, freeing up a few days a week to be able to do a few other things. So My bonsai classes and retail ran over Saturday and Sunday. The bonsai hire business took 2 days during the week, so I had 3 days available. Early in 2013, once we'd moved our collection up to here at the National Arboretum, Grant decided that he wanted to retire from the curator role. So a competitive process was put out for tender, basically, for the position, and I ended up being the successful candidate amongst a field of very competitive field of several high-profile candidates. And I've now been with the collection for nearly 15 years.
So since starting in this role, you've introduced a few key awards and prizes that seem to greatly benefit Australian bonsai, including our local pot makers that we've got here, which is brilliant. Can you just outline a few of what those prizes and what those awards are that you've instigated?
Yeah, look, my aim here with these extracurricular type activities that are kind of outside of running the collection is ultimately to unite the bonsai community in Australia. The community being a partner in the NBPCA, I want everyone to feel like they're part of the team. And I guess we've got a number of different kind of initiatives that we try and reach out and get as many people involved in. So firstly, we've got the Centenary Bonsai Acquisition Prize. And this was created to celebrate the centenary of Canberra in 2013. So every 10 years, we offer a prize in exchange for an outstanding bonsai from within the community. This would be added to the permanent collection. So far, we've acquired 2 trees through this initiative. One was a fantastic juniper from Ian Hearn, and another we did recently, 2023. There was a beautiful Banksia by Peter Hanrahan. On top of that, we also have our annual bonsai pot acquisition prize. So we select one of our permanent trees in the collection that might need a new pot, and ultimately we put it out to expressions of interest from the community to get involved, create a bonsai pot for a particular tree. So our only parameters for the judging of the competition is to ensure that the tree is complemented by the pot, but also from a horticultural perspective, we judge it based on the size and how well the pot would accommodate the tree. So the top 3 ranking pots in that competition receive a monetary prize, and they're acquired by the collection. So we ultimately want to put the winning pot, put the tree into the winning pot, and then we're left with 2 other pots that we add to our pot collection here at the NBPCA, and we can use those for potting up other trees, or we may even give the tree in question a turn in a different pot as well at some stage in time. Or alternatively, we simply put them up for auction at our annual events and raise money to go back into our bonsai trust fund. Another one that we did recently, we have the ability to do a few little ad hoc things, and we had a lovely donation by a person within the community, Mel Brackstone from Queensland. She offered us some money in memory of her mother, and she wanted to have a native tree acquired with the money that she offered. So we put together the native acquisition prize. We got a beautiful Agonis from a grower in Victoria, Annalie Smith. Another example of our recent acquisitions, we wanted to get more Australian bonsai potters involved, and often with the acquisition prize, we were requiring quite a large pot. And I heard some feedback from the community that they couldn't do a pot that size; they can only do small ones. So I came up with the idea of creating a display of mini bonsai pots. So that was our recent acquisition. We ended up getting 25 different pots from 25 potters within the community, and we've now got that on display in one of our display windows. Yeah, so just these ideas pop up just to get the community involved and just give people a sense of somewhat of a sense of ownership in the NBPCA, which I think is good for everyone.
You also do an artist in resident program, which I was really fortunate to be involved with, and I honestly believe that the NBPCA is really trying to, and quite successfully, growing the talent pool of Australian bonsai artists as well as the quality of our trees and containers. And I think that I've said this many times before, but I think that having a bonsai on display at our national collection is it's a real honour. And it's something that I think all bonsai artists or enthusiasts in Australia should strive for. And obviously there's restrictions, as you said before, on Tasmania and Western Australia, but you've got trees from those states that are on permanent display that have been donated to the collection. Is that right?
Yeah, look, some of our first donations actually came from Western Australia. So we've got some fantastic natives from the likes of Derek Oakley and Alf Devine and Arthur Robinson. Derek and Alf have provided us with some beautiful natives, freshwater paperbarks, callistemons, and so forth. And Arthur Robinson was his expertise was in Japanese maples and Satsuki azaleas and trident maples. We've also got a lovely European beech group setting from Arthur. So fantastic to have the WA people get on into the program so early. But we've also got some artists from Tasmania represented. We've got some beautiful donations by Lynn Farrell and Will Fletcher, including some Banksias and tea trees. So in addition to our loans and donations program, another way for artists to get involved with the NBPCA is to participate in that Artists in Residence program. So each year we invite 2 Australian artists to share their skills collaboratively with our staff and volunteers. This is a great way to not only share knowledge and skills, but basically it's all in an effort to improve bonsai in Australia.
Yep. Yeah, definitely, which I'm absolutely positive that it does. And so NBPCA, the National Collection, is all about promoting Australian bonsai, but I suppose what I really want to talk to you about today was you guys have got a recent agreement that you coordinated with the Omiya Bonsai Village in Japan. Can you run through that process of setting that up, as well as what it's going to mean for Australian bonsai?
Yeah, look, many years in the making. I think I started floating that idea with the powers that be down here a bit over 10 years ago. So it's very satisfying to actually get to the end of it and get over to Japan, where we formed a working agreement with the Omiya Bonsai Art Museum. So late last year, we made the trek over, and the Japanese were very, very keen to work with us on this, and from their point of view, they refer to it as a sister museum relationship. For our powers that be here, they like to refer to it as a memorandum of understanding. So within that memorandum, there's a few things that we've put together which will guide us in our relationship with the museum over there. One of the exciting parts of the agreement included an exchange of staff. So this would allow for a higher level of learning, or an exchange of that higher level of learning from one another. So this would entail some of their staff coming over and spending periods of time to work with us to understand and learn our Australian native species, but also some of our staff to go over there and learn the techniques that they're using to maintain their collection.
Okay.
And this extends beyond just the maintenance of the collection, in terms of the way that they do things on the administrative side. And I'm hoping that they might be able to learn, some of the initiatives that I've been able to install here at our collection, getting the community involved and some of the events that we roll out and so forth. But I was very pleased to find out that our Japanese counterparts are very, very impressed with our Australian native trees, particularly the Banksias in the collection, which have formed those really old, gnarly trunks in a relatively short time. They're very keen to get some seeds, or if we can give them some plants so they can take it back home to grow.
Nice. Well, hats off to you and the crew at the National Collection, mate, for what you're doing for the bonsai community, and personally, I'd like to thank you too. I'm certain it's a bloody tough job with many moving parts, but our community overall is much stronger thanks to the work of people like you. And as I always say, if it's good for bonsai, it's good for all of us. So thanks, mate. And what's next for the collection? I understand the Canberra Bonsai Society, which is in your neck of the woods, will be hosting the National AABC conference next year in 2025. Will the NBPCA be involved at all?
We are involved to a certain extent. It would have been awesome if we had facility to actually have that convention on site. But unfortunately, the way that we've got things set up at the moment, we wouldn't be able to accommodate that amount of people over a weekend. So the CBS, or the Canberra Bonsai Society, have engaged a different venue for convention, but we will still be involved in the capacity of providing tours of our collection to any of the delegates. That I think they're going to have a bus that'll be running back and forth on a regular basis for any of the delegates that want to come up and get an interpretive tour of the bonsai collection. But we'll also be the official venue for the workshops.
Oh, right.
And as you know, Scott, as you've been here before and run workshops, there is no better place.
None.
In Australia that I'm aware of that has such a beautiful view to bonsai.
It's a great hall. That is a beautiful venue.
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, I'm really glad, and it's going to be an exciting year. There will be a lot happening in Canberra next year. The CBS also, they're hosting an Australian Native Trees as Bonsai Convention, which I think will be earlier in the year, might be February or March. I think they usually have that. They also have their own club show in October. But here at the NBPCA, we'll also be hosting our Bonsai Reshaped event, which is an annual event.
Mm-hmm.
We've had to change the date a little bit because we didn't want to get too close to those Canberra Bonsai Society events, and in particular the AABC convention. So we've moved it to 5 days. So we've extended a little bit over some of the early dates in November.
Okay.
So this gives people a chance to recover from their AABC and prepare to visit the National Collection in November. We've got some exciting news, which I believe marketing are in the process of preparing, but I can let you in on a little secret.
Oh, here we go. Here comes a snippet.
Yeah, so this year we will be having 4 artists performing simultaneously on stage. Right. So I think you're going to have to get a bigger stage.
Can you let us know who they are yet, or not yet? You got to wait.
I think I should wait. We've got 3 international artists and 1 Australian artist, but they are all high-profile bonsai artists within our community. So, yeah, really looking forward to it. So alongside of those demonstrations, which we normally do of a Friday evening, all artists will be available for workshops as well. So keep an eye out, not only on the National Arboretum website, but our social media channels as well.
Okay. All right, well, that's going to be coming out very soon. Sounds very interesting, mate. Bonsai Reshaped in November in Canberra. Sounds like the place to be.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. As I said, it's probably one of the bigger events that we've put together, and we've got a little bit more time to plan as well. So that's the other benefit of moving it to November. We've got a bit more time up our sleeve to get the promotion happening and hopefully generate some interest from the community.
Fantastic. All right, mate. Well, thank you, Leigh. Thank you very much for your time today for the podcast. It's been really interesting and great to talk to you again. And I'm sure we'll have you on again some stage in the future.
Thanks very much, Scott. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I do love having a chat with you, mate.
Anytime, mate. Anytime. Now, I had recently the immersive intensive experience, which was a new for me, first for me, where Aaron came over from New Zealand to spend 10 days in the yard, in the bonsai nursery. Have a look around, work on the trees, gain lots of experience. And looking back on that, Aaron's skill level was great, like really, really good. And so there was refinement, like additional things to add to his kit bag and lots of stuff to learn on. But it reminded me of my time a lot when I went to Japan and did the same thing, that immersive experience where you are just neck deep in bonsai for a long period of time and it's just bonsai, bonsai, bonsai. You never get away from it, never get a break, which is awesome because that's what you're there for. And it's one thing to have the skills in your repertoire, but it's another thing to have material available to you to show it. And that's really what I got out of Aaron too, this is where I think these immersive experiences are brilliant. They were brilliant for me, and I was like I said, I was thinking about my time, thinking where I got the best benefit, and it's great to work on really nice trees like it and to be trusted with it. Like that's brilliant. I can't undervalue that from a personal point of view, and I still think about the trees now, like from I don't know, however many years ago it was that I was there. I still think about the trees that I worked on, and I was chatting with someone from IGN the other day, and I was thinking to myself, geez, I wonder if that tree, that needle juniper that I worked on, if that's still part of the collection, or if it's been sold off, or if it's a forever tree for them. And anyway, so what I was thinking was, you need access to material of a certain caliber to develop your skills. If you've got a very young set of stock available to you, then things like think about your wiring on young stock is going to be maybe a trunk and some primary branches. And then next year, you might be taking off the trunk and maybe doing a bit more with some primary branches. The year after, you might be doing primary plus some secondary. But, if you follow that things sort of multiply, they double their growth every year with the theory of that 1 to 2. One branch turns into 2, and every year we get division. Then on that basis, it's a lot of years to take a tree that's sort of got 10 branches to be something where you've got a lot of intensive wiring to do and styling. So it's and it can be expensive to purchase mature stock. So it's very hard to get your hands on to develop your skill set to the point that you become very proficient at it. I think there was one white pine that I worked on where I wired it for days. There were so many branches on this bloody thing. And from that tree, my wiring was good, but this tree sort of finished it off. This is the tree that I got everything perfect on, stepping down the wire, choosing the right size thickness branches, working out where to terminate that thicker branch as I got towards thinner one, reconnecting multiple branches on one, secondary branches where there's, half a dozen, eight secondary branches, and then tertiary fine detailed wiring on each one of those tips as well. It's doing that not just once, but doing it 1,000 times really, really, really cements in technique. And it's that repetitive nature of doing the same thing over and over and over to a certain level that I think allows you to not only lock in that skill, but also to prove to yourself that, hey, I can do this. This is something that I can do, and it's not something that's daunting anymore or something that you think you're going to have an issue with. It's something that once it's cemented in there, I think about it like riding a bike. Wiring is exactly for me like riding a bike. You can not ride a bike for 5 years and you can still jump on it. You might be a little bit wobbly at the start, but it takes nothing to get that muscle memory, to get that process of how to ride a bike back. And we all know we all know how to ride bikes. Hopefully we all do. If you don't, it's something you should have a crack at. But wiring for me is like that, where I'll start on a tree and there might be a few points that may be a little bit rusty, but once you get the swing of it and you're back into it, it's like, yeah, okay, now I'm back. And it all kicks back into gear again. And going to a place where you can maybe work with that high quality tree, wherever it is, whether it's one of your friends' trees, whether it's in Japan, whether it's at a bonsai nursery, whether it's doing something somewhere, I reckon that's a great way to really cement in. And thoroughly work on those skills, whether it's styling options too. I have certain ways that I style my trees. Doesn't have to be for everybody, but when we'd review trees, it would be the consistent message of, okay, this is the way I'd like it to flow. This is the way this tree flows. This is the way that trunk goes. So this is the way the foliage is going to sit, and it sort of all starts to work together. And you go, yeah, cool. Okay, so then when you get home or when you start working on your own trees, you get your own feel to it and go, well, I like it like this, and I like it like this, and I like it like this. And I was talking to someone the other day about wiring up young whips. And they were saying they all look the same. I always wire them the same way. They always get done the same way. And I said, maybe just do, half a dozen today, then come back tomorrow and do half a dozen where the wire starts in a different orientation. And then, maybe some you use your right hand to bend. The other ones use your left hand to bend. And you'll find that you can get some kind of variation. But don't sit down there and wire, 500 whips in one sitting, because they'll all pretty much be the same thing, because you get that repetitive nature of what you do. Same as working on trees and wiring trees in Japan. You get that. For me, it's that repetition of doing the same thing over and over and over that I could build up the skills. So anyway, I thought that was a valuable one to look back on. That having the skills is one thing, but having the stock to be able to represent and show and fine-tune those skills, that's another thing, and that's something that you should work for if you really want to develop your skill set. Well, folks, that brings the second last episode for 2024 to a wrap. It's been a great year. Geez, I've had an awesome year this year. Done so much stuff, met so many people. A lot of people listen to this podcast. So if I've come across you in the last 12 months and you've talked to me about it, trust me, it means a hell of a lot when people that I hadn't known before that point in time have told me that the podcast has made a great connection with them, and that they love it, and it's different to the other podcasts that are out there, and you've got connectivity with it and inspiration from it. Well, geez, that helps me sleep better at night too, I can tell you. What doesn't help me sleep better at night is the fact that I'm on a deadline with decandling. The other morning, up at 5:30, so I had a tree that had to be decandled before I got into the day's work. So just when you're scratching your eyes at the moment and getting out of bed, just think of me out there in the workshop decandling trees, because I'm on the clock, I'm on the deadline. All right, well, I hope your trees are growing really well. I hope you are focused on preparing for the warm weather. It sounds like there's a few nasty ones on the horizon for us coming up. In fact, I reckon that if you're in Melbourne and the day that you listen to this podcast, we might have had an absolute stinker. So hopefully you're prepared, as I mentioned last podcast, to start stepping things up a little bit more. That's the word I'm passing on to a lot of people at the moment, is your watering's just got to start stepping up. It's no longer that guaranteed once a day. It might be once or twice, and sometimes even more. So just like the old Boy Scouts, just be prepared and make sure that your trees keep taking steps forward. If something's not right with the tree, if you're starting to see some kind of an issue, shelter, protection, make sure that water is getting into that inner root ball of the tree. How can you get it to the next repotting season? Don't do anything crazy like repotting your trees just prior to an extreme hot burst, and make sure that it's going to pass the test of summer and come through the other side alive, so we can then build the strength on it. Anyway, enough about that. Get out there, enjoy time with your trees. Make sure that you give them lots of love and give them a cuddle for me. I'll see you in the next podcast. Until next time, happy bonsai.